Douglas, tell us a little bit about the relationship between following Jesus and culture.
Right. That's a great question, Josh. It's also a very difficult question because anybody who has ever lived since the fall, anyone who's wanted to be a follower of Jesus or part of the people of God, have always wrestled with the question of what do I do with culture? How do I relate to culture? And before I can answer it, let's talk a little bit about what culture is. Culture ultimately is a human edifice. It's something that for centuries and centuries and centuries, human civilization has been building, and it builds upon itself. And if we want to use a metaphor like the Tower of Babel, it's something that just keeps building up and up and up and up and up. And so in our generation, we're no different than anyone else. We have culture as a human edifice that's out there, and we have to engage it. The problem, though, comes in what do we do with that huge edifice? Because and I'll use an example of generational example, but a lot of times when you're young and you're in college and you're excited about being part of the people of God and being out on mission, and you see culture, and there's a real challenge of what do I do with it, and there's a temptation a lot of times to want to adopt culture, to say, wow, this is cool, and I'll take this piece and this piece and this piece, and I'll try to mash it in with my faith. At the same time, to follow the generational stereotype for a second, if we look at seniors, a lot of time, people who are sort of in that older generation, they will see culture, and they, because they've lived their life and they've dealt with culture their whole life, they tend to have this attitude sometimes of rejection, where I've been there, done that, I haven't seen any good of that, and I just want to be able to focus on my church or my faith community or whatever it may be, and so they tend to reject culture. And of course that's a stereotype, although we find that stereotype to be true in a lot of situations. The problem is, though, is that neither of those really, in my mind, capture what it means to engage culture. So as believers, as followers of Jesus, it's imperative that we engage culture. And part of that cultural engagement, or if I can use another metaphor, is the example of meeting someone on the street. For example, we're here in Atlanta, and if I were out on the street and I see someone that I don't really know, I could go up and adopt them. I could go up and say, hey, I don't know you, but give them a hug, and that might seem a little weird because I don't know them very well yet. At the same time, I could reject them. I could try to keep them away from me because they're a stranger and I don't know them. But if I really want to interact with them, have a relationship with them, get to know them, I would walk alongside of them. I would walk down the street and I would talk to them and I would get to know them. And in so doing it, that's where I see kind of as a model for cultural engagement, that we are constantly conversing with culture, we're constantly understanding culture, we're not adopting or rejecting culture, but we're dialoguing with it in such a way that we are able to then be on mission and be missional as we go out into the world.
So how do you actually do that when you're trying to help, whether it's a congregation or you're trying to help students? I mean, what are some ways that you've seen people have done this yourself actually? So what do they need to concentrate on in order to be able to do this effectively?
Right. Well, I think the two things that they have to concentrate on is knowing themselves and then knowing culture, okay? So the two parts of that is, first of all, they have to know who they are, their identity in Christ. And if they don't really know who they are, it's hard for them to be able to interact with other people, be able to interact with culture in this example. At the same time, I think they have to be knowledgeable about culture. It's very easy for us to stereotype or to make culture into something that's unfathomable or difficult. And instead of that, being able to understand, know culture, learn about culture, at the same time knowing who we are, and then putting those pieces together. If we cannot relate to and understand people, we won't be able to connect with them.